Another world. Another time. In the age of wonders. Another time. This pod was green and good. Until Brandon went too long and we had to crack it into 2 episodes.
Oh man, we're amazing.
All right, great job, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Arts and Crimes. For one final time, I am your host, Brandon, and with me,
I'm your co-host, temporary Kelly.
You doing okay, Kelly?
So I just woke up.
And I'm your guest, temporary co-host, Josh.
and together we are us. And we have the second half of our Dark Crystal.
Black Crystal.
Black Crystal. The Dark Crystal episode for you.
It's not even black, it's purple.
Yeah. Okay. But first,
A word from our sponsor.
man, is that always going to be the case? If I say but first,
A word from our sponsor.
Always
Blue
follow.
Coal.
Sure.
Did you listen to episode 1?
Of the Dark Crystal?
Yes.
I did. Yes.
Are there any corrections you would like to make?
I mean,
Or things as you listen to it that you were like, I wish this was different?
well, so I think I think that it was really obvious to me that this was my first time in the driver's seat and trying to control the pace, and I probably should have put more effort into like the decision about whether I was going to summarize or give details like at the end or during, because I sort of just started doing details in the middle. So certainly a learning experience for me, but I don't think that there's any corrections or inaccuracies that were said in the first episode. So I guess without any further ado, I give you the second part of the Dark Crystal. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Yay.
Let's see. So the Gartham break-in, Jen and Kira flee, right?
Right.
They steal Podlings. The Gartham have
Yeah.
like a little backpack
For Podlings.
for Podlings.
Well,
They call that the potato
anything.
sack.
Nice.
What's funny is we're gonna come back and we have such different energy now.
Maybe we do. I don't know. We might
Maybe
be
we
just
sound
right
exactly
on point.
the
We're
same.
just
We're about to find out.
Yeah.
all right. So after they escape from Podling Village, I feel like there was something that I wanted to delve into.
There's a big reveal. They jump off
There-
a cliff.
No, that's
Not yet. Not yet. There is a reveal before the big.
This is
reveal,
when Jen he gets upset and the Chamberlain shows up
Oh,
Yeah.
because he calls off the Gartham.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
you're right.
Yeah.
So he says, Gartham, go away. They escape into the
Mhm.
place.
Yeah, the ruins
Yes.
of this Gelfling city.
City, and he's like, I hate that the crystal is even here. It's crystal.
And then
It's
he
pronounced crystal, you idiot.
What is that from?
goes, it's from
Futurama.
Futurama. We have to get the crystal. And he goes, I hate this friggin' crystal. And he chucks it.
But
And she
yeah,
goes, no, Jen.
and then
You're
she's
going to
like,
want that later.
your hand is hurt, and then she just knows what Moss is. She like knows how to fix things.
Yeah, right. She's grown up in the world. She knows its medicinal purposes or
Yeah.
whatever. But they come across the prophecy
Mm-hmm.
in the broken down city, and this is also where the Chamberlain shows up.
And says, please make peace.
It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
it's
Most
by
quoted
far the
line.
most quoted line in our family is the Chamberlain. The Chamberlain sees this as an opportunity to like regain his status
Yeah.
with the other Skeksis. And
He's a
And-
real weasel.
yeah. I mean, the audience knows this straight up. He is just so scummy that you know exactly what he's doing. And luckily, Jen and Kira don't want to have any part of it. This is maybe the first time that Jen is showing an ability to see through deception. He has not been. He's just a very naive person.
Yeah.
So what happens when you get raised by Daddy Mystic?
Daddy
Mystic.
Mystics, where nobody lies or does anything bad.
You just learn music
Just like, yeah.
and sand art.
So they get away from the Chamberlain, and this is where they've decided to like really head into the castle, because I think what really drives them. Well, okay, do they know the Podlings were captured?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they.
Because she also talks about how the Garthmen do that a lot, anyways.
Yeah.
So they get on some land striders, which are sort of like if a bat and a giraffe had a baby.
Yeah. I feel like that's the most accurate.
That's a great way to describe it. Because...
I always thought they had kind of a moth look to them.
Okay.
Because they're like kind of hairy, kind of not, and they have like that long, like, you know, moths have like a long thing for their tongue.
I don't know. Or like maybe if someone stuck a mole on stilts. But they're this crazy creature, right? Yeah. And so the land strider came about, like, was a solution to a problem, because they needed some way to travel. Like when they were making the movie, they knew in the story they needed a way for.
Okay, I love when they're making the movie, they genetically engineered these creatures to take the cameras, and then they were like, we should put these guys in the movie. They're naturals.
Yeah. So the way that this came about, though, is so they brought in a bunch, like this group of like dancers and performers and clowns and mimes, like
interesting.
Yeah, right, like this group of people who tell stories with their bodies and with motion. And for me, this was definitely a growing moment for Brandon as a person, because when they talk about like the person who did a lot of the choreography, or I think I was trying to say the choreographing of the motions and stuff. He was a famous mime. Like that was his, like how they defined him. And I was like, I didn't know there were famous mimes or that it was a respectable profession at all. Like, I thought they just get stuck in invisible boxes and you know.
A mime that was so famous that like Jim Henson
was
like, call up this guy.
How could a mime get famous? They can't talk.
Also, how did he call him up?
Yeah. It's all
are you listening? Like I think you're on the other line. I'm taking your silence as yes. I expect to see you soon.
Or are you just miming this whole phone call?
But yeah, like so very interesting. There were so many professions used in the making of this movie, and mime was one of them. Kind of blew my mime. I just thought of that right there.
It's so good.
Okay. Anyway, so one of the clown mime guys had just shown up and was like showing off his stilts, and that got them thinking about like, well, here's a way for someone to travel like large distances pretty easily, and what if we did all four legs, like all four limbs had stilts, and like this is how the land strider developed. So they I'm kind of telling the story all weird, but so they took that idea of someone walking on four stilts to Brian Frode, who was really the artist behind the entire project. So back before the film started, when it was an idea for Jim Henson, one of the catalysts that really got this moving forward was he came across this artist called Brian Frode and saw his work, and he was really impressed by it and really felt like his work of these fantastical creatures they were creatures that really could come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so he reached out to Brian, and they started a partnership and what would have eventually become the Dark Crystal. So it just sounds like such a lot of pressure to put on one person, because he ended up being the artist for the entire, like, every creature in the movie.
Oh, dang. Well, I mean, it does very cohesive.
That makes sense. Yeah. So, creature development was in a number of different ways, and this is an example of where they brought something that moved in a certain way to Brian, and then he created a creature based on it. And some of the creatures were the other direction, where Brian would draw something out, and then that would go to other artists that would create 3D versions of it, and then they'd start to build in the movement and make this thing into a puppet.
Yeah.
And so there was very much this flow in both directions, where it was maybe they needed something to move in a certain way, or they needed it to fill a certain role, and then they brought that to him to create something, or vice versa.
Yeah,
so
that's
really
cool.
Interesting and organic development
Yeah, it's super cool.
on this. So Kira, she can talk to animals. She's like the Aquaman of the land. And
we call her
Land
Landman.
woman. Landman woman.
Girl Landman.
And so she calls the Landstriders, and they come and they whisk them away towards the castle, right? So this moves the story, just the story to the castle scene, and the castle is very cool. It's one of...
when did she fall off the cliff?
During the infiltration.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're almost there, Josh.
I watched this movie hours ago, and I'm like so confused. I guess that moment stuck out of my brain.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then that happened, and you're like, no.
Not yet.
Not yet.
yet.
Almost.
It's after
like-
they get off of the Landstriders and they're on the bridge to get into the castle.
Just one thing will completely
Sorry.
destroy my temporal ability. Like when I'm remembering the birth of a child, I'm like, and then there was blood everywhere. And Mikhail's like, no, that happened way later.
Well, these moments stick out,
Yeah.
and then they kind of
This was a big
just
reveal.
go wherever
moment.
they want.
Yeah. We'll cue you in and then you can explain it.
I think
it's best if that doesn't happen. Clearly, I can't remember anything.
I don't know. I started this out kind of trying to focus on the summary of the film, and it's sort of developed into talking about the film as we're going along.
Yeah,
And maybe that's dragging it out a little bit too much for you, Josh.
maybe I just really want to get to that reveal.
Get to it. Well, it's almost there. And what I was going to say was all of the landscapes and the scenes and the different things were all built live or at life size, right? Like they had these
scale?
sound stages, yes, to scale, and just like these massive things, all except for the castle. So there are scenes inside the castle, and those are built to scale, but any scenes outside, they built this miniature, quote unquote, because it's still big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so we see them go into the castle, this crazy miniature thing, and they arrive about the same time as the Gartham are showing up with backpacks
With the
full of
potato
pod
sacks.
people.
Yeah.
With the potato sacks. I forgot the joke. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this is a moment where Kira maybe doesn't make the greatest decision. In fact, I'm always a little bit irritated with her, because she sees it, she can't handle it, she's got to save the potato people.
It's funny because you're like, I'm
Hold
irritated.
hold on. The tater tots.
That was good. That was worth the pause. So it's funny because you're like irritated by it, but for me, I'm like, that's exactly what I would have done.
Well,
Like-
then I would have been irritated with you, Kelly.
You would have, but the thing is like, there's no way, like, if I saw my family all in potato sacks, like, about to get taken in, and I was like, I could rush in and go get them, there's no hesitation in my
Well,
mind. And
I guess my frustration with Kira at this moment is that while I would want to save my family, the Gartham have like maybe never been defeated. And I'm not just taking myself into this fight. I'm riding a Landstrider in. And the Landstriders put up a valiant effort, but they are no match for the Gartham. And they both die. And Kira doesn't. So her actions killed 2 Landstriders.
Or does she?
Die?
So the Landstriders go down. One of them does take one of the Gartham off a cliff with it. Great job.
Yeah.
A 1-to-1 death kill ratio for that
Traded
Landstrider.
blows.
Yeah. The other
You don't
one,
know. Maybe the Landstrider went in willingly because animals will not, like, you can, there's times where horses, they will not go. And you're
All
like,
right.
go, go, go. And the horse is like, nah, man, you cannot convince me to go. But the Landstrider had zero hesitation. Maybe they hate the Gartham just as much as Kira.
You know what? You're probably right.
Maybe I'm always right.
Oh. Total justification. Good job, Kira. So, anyway, Landstriders go down, and Jen and Kira are backed up against that same cliff that the first Landstrider and Gartham fell off of. And then what happens, Josh?
And then I don't know. They fall to their death.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie.
Yeah. It's a cautionary
Tale,
tale.
yeah.
So, Kira grabs Jen and pulls him off the cliff with her. And then...
And Jen's like, what the frick are you doing?
Pretty much.
That's a cliff.
And then she has little butterfly wings that pop out and they float down, and Jen is blown away by this, and he's like, you have wings. Like, I don't have wings. And Kira's only response is, you're not a girl. And then off she goes.
And that's the only explanation.
Yep, it's normal, and she's fine with it. So her wings go away, and she's a girl.
Yep. It's a big reveal.
So
they play into that quite a bit in the when they do the remake, or not the remake, but the
Netflix
prequel
thing,
the prequel Netflix thing. There's a lot more women,
Lady Gelflings with wings.
showing, and I think that it's a matriarchal society, if I'm remembering correctly. I feel like queens had a big role in it, so I feel like maybe, but I can't remember for sure. I only watched it once, and I wasn't like, that was amazing. I was like, oh, it was a cool world. I'm glad that they spent more time in it.
So they get down. So they're down at the bottom of this ravine, and they find essentially like a drainage sewage pipe or whatever. Of course, it's got like a scary carving around it. And this is one of the times where our two heroes are supporting each other, and there's different times where they're strong. This is one of the few times where Jen is strong, and Kira says she doesn't want to go in there, and it's Jen that gets them to go into the scary tunnel. And why is that funny?
Why is that funny?
Yeah.
It's the first time a man has ever convinced an unsure female to go into the scary tunnel. All right, now you have to cut the whole thing out.
Yeah, I do.
Sorry.
Well, you could just cut out the last part.
No.
I guess. I don't know.
It's
Do whatever you
all or
want.
All or nothing.
Look, yeah, it's your pod.
And I'll cry if I want
It's
to.
like a little podling.
Aww. That's what we can call our listeners. Our podlings. Oh my gosh.
We need to do that.
Can we please?
Hello, podlings.
All right.
I like it.
Okay.
I'm in.
I think this is happening. All right. All right. So just inside, they're in the bowels of the castle, and this is where they once again meet the Chamberlain. And he is still trying to kind of reclaim his status by bringing the Gelflings back to the other Skeksis, and he's pushing really hard this time. And there's a little bit of a back and forth, and Jen hits the Chamberlain's hand with the crystal and wounds it. And we flash to the Mystics, who have been just very slowly plodding along towards the castle, and one of them
A cut shows up.
experiences pain, on a corresponding hand.
It's probably just
once
a
again.
coincidence.
Yeah. I mean, it's a movie full of these weird coincidences.
It doesn't mean
never get any kind of closure. So there's a little bit of a cave
My
in.
favorite, speaking of these coincidences,
Yeah.
my favorite is when the guy gets burned up in lava and they're all just walking and one of them just goes, like, and they just keep, like, no one
They're
even
like-
turns. They're just
Yeah.
like, well, you know, so it
Nothing to
goes.
do. Yeah.
As one does.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a cave in, and Jen is buried,
Mhm.
and the Chamberlain runs off with Kira.
Yeah.
Um,
Because he also says one of my favorites, "Scuffling, you die," or whatever. He says.
Yeah.
He's got some great lines.
He really does.
But
The
he's
most
like-
quotable.
He's talking. I just love that he's talking to them. This is a part that I never saw. So this was my one of the. So yes, to our listeners, I had never sat down and watched all the way through, and I never saw this part when they're just like, he's like, "Come with me, whatever," and he's like, "No," and he stabs him, and then he's like, "You die." And just
You have such a good
knocks
Chamberlain
down
voice.
The ceiling on him.
Yeah.
That could have backfired.
yeah,
Anyway,
could have.
I just thought it was a great line. You need to be called out.
No, it's
You
great.
die.
It's good. So, man, I'm hitting most of the parts, but there's still things that I'm like realizing I'm leaving out. Like, for instance, I didn't talk about how Agra gets dumped out of the potato
Oh,
sack.
yeah. During one of my favorite, I don't know if it's one of my favorite scenes, but it's one that sticks in my mind. I remember being real grossed out because it's like a meal. The Skeksis are like in the like dining area.
Yeah,
and they're,
let's
like,
talk about that really quick for a second.
eating.
So yeah, this is before Jen and Kira are in the castle. But they've sent out the Gartham to go capture Jen. They don't even know about Kira at this point, right? And it's when the Gartham have busted in and just destroyed Agra's place.
Yeah.
Right. The Gartham come back. They've got their potato sack, and they come back right when the Skeksis are sitting down to a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is maybe a good time to talk a little bit about the Skeksis' inspiration. So when they started designing the Skeksis, they were based kind of loosely around the 7 deadly sins. And so like some of them are just straight up are a sin, right? Like you've got gluttony, which is represented by the gourmand.
Yeah.
He's like,
The food guy.
yeah, they're more.
More food,
Do it.
more food.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite lines. I say it all the time.
Yeah. And you've got like, so they gave them all like names and then sort of like names that we know them by.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so all of their names start with a skek at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So Skek Seal is the Chamberlain's name. And he's known for being scheming and conniving. Skekso is the emperor who dies right at the beginning of the movie. So
Doesn't have a lot.
I don't know how you would know these names, right?
And also, they never say them,
Yeah,
except
Yeah.
for they call him the Chamberlain.
right. They call them by these other names.
Yeah.
So, and maybe one of the reasons why these names exist is because originally this movie was not going to be in English. It was going to completely be in a different made-up language and subtitled.
Woof. I'm really glad that they.
That was a great
Right.
choice.
Well,
Yeah.
they did though record it all that way
Really?
and show it to.
Where's the release
audiences.
of that?
I'm not sure.
I want it.
Is it in special features?
I'm gonna have to.
Maybe.
We got to see if we can find it.
So, we already talked about the ornamentalist,
Mhm.
right? So vanity,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Skek Ekt. The gourmand was Skek Ayuk. The general was Skek Ung.
That fits.
Unga
Yeah.
bunga.
Yeah.
Unga bunga. So there was also the ritual master who was kind of like their religious leader, and he's Skek Zok.
Mm.
And he was like performed by Jim Henson.
Oh.
And when Jim Henson talked about performing the ritual master, he talked about how this guy was like fun to play. He was sort of pompous and arrogant, and how he kind of sees some of those things in himself, and it was kind of fun to play with and riff on.
Interesting.
Yeah. While we're talking about like performing these Skeksis, so most of them, they all had like 4 performers. So like there is the main performer, like for the religious leader guy, it was Jim Henson, and the Chamberlain was Frank Oz, actually.
That I did know. Didn't Frank Oz also do Agra? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he was the main performer for Agra. But when you say the main performer, it doesn't really like explain it very well, because there's really like 4 different people for each character, and they're controlling just portions of it. And it's wild to me. They must have like, I imagine that you can build this skill up eventually, but like, to have not tried to do it ever and imagine myself trying, it just seems impossible. But they're
Pacific Rim.
They're looking at screens that are giving them a video feed of what the camera is capturing, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're looking at as they perform. So they're not like looking at what they're doing or anything. They're looking at this video capture,
like from a far away view.
Yeah, of what their puppet is doing. And they have like one person who's just doing the eyes, and they have to make sure that, you know, when somebody looks at something and also turns their head, like that needs to look natural. That when do you turn your head versus when do your eyes then track to that thing, or whatever.
Or if it's the eyes first and then the head.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And all of that has to be thought out and figured out. And when, you know, 4 Skeksis are moving through a room, it's 16 people.
Dang.
All like crouched and like scuttling across, you know. So such an incredible feat. And like when the Skeksis are tearing off the clothes of the Chamberlain, that was one of Frank Oz's favorite moments. And he described it as having a small army on all on at the same time, because there's 9 Skeksis, and each one has 4 people, and they're all cramming up against the wall, to tear the clothes off this one guy. So just like very interesting, and very different from your typical movie or feature film that you might make. So
more food.
Anyway, thanks for bringing us back to that moment, right? So Agra gets captured, and is taken to the scientists area. So the scientists, Skek Tech.
Well, I see where that one's going from.
And that would be you.
So
that's who I've always wanted to be.
So he's doing experiments, and really the goal of the Skeksis, I think that the Skeksis' goal in life is to live as long as possible and have as many pleasures as possible during that time. Yeah. And so they're using the crystal
it's not just the Skeksis' goal.
Yeah, mine too. So they're using the crystal to extend their life, but that's not enough. They still are aging. They still are losing people to time and death, because they start out at 18. There's when the crystal cracks, there's 18 Skeksis created and 18 mystics created, and over the 1,000 years they've lost half of them. So the scientists, a lot of his work is trying to extend life.
Well, one of the funny things is, I don't know if you're going to get to this.
Do it.
In the lore of the film, they get the potato juice, and it's not as effective.
It's not.
And the scientist is like, well, really what we need is that sweet gelfling juice, right? Mm-hmm. And
their vital essence.
Yes, their vital essence. Much like
Dr. Strangelove?
Dr. Strangelove, yes. Anyway, he's talking about something else.
Vital essence.
But then obviously the Skeksis also destroyed the gelflings. So
right.
They're what they need to maintain their life, they destroyed themselves
in an effort to maintain their life.
Well, I mean, so I think that they were using the Gelflings as they destroyed them, but they definitely consumed them too quickly. And some of that because there's a danger of the prophecy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they can't leave the Gelflings around. There's a prophecy that the Gelflings will destroy the Skeksis.
By Gelfling hand or else by none.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for making it so official sounding.
I think that's how it actually is worded.
So
I've watched this movie a lot.
So the scientist is working on his machine, which they have, like you said, Josh. They in the past they have used it on Gelflings, but they're trying to get it to work with Podlings, and it
not our precious Podlings.
No,
listen to this pod.
No,
the new name for our listeners, but the potato people in this film, and it harnesses the crystal to try and do that, and he's still working on his formula is just not as good. There's a part where he makes some from a podling and gives it to the general who's now the new emperor, right? Because it seems like only the emperor gets to partake. And this is some movie magic where they're like, they definitely did work because he drinks the potion and then he gets younger looking and then it goes back to older looking again. And so a lot of practical effects in there to make this puppet get smooth and plumped out features of a youth and then have them go back to these more skeletal, shrivelly look. Anyway, I double backed on that because after Kira gets the Chamberlain brings Kira in and dumps her in front of the rest of the Skeksis, and they react like a cartoon elephant does to a mouse.
Yeah. They're like, oh no! And
yeah. Right.
The fabric maker.
The
in particular,
ornamentalist.
In
yeah,
particular.
definitely flips
over
out.
the top.
What a sissy.
Yeah. Come on.
So after they've calmed down, she is taken to the chamber of the scientist where he's doing his experiments, and the Chamberlain is given back his honors. He's
given back his robes.
Yep. He's redressed. He's part of the group again. And so the scientist, this scene always made me feel just so squeamish and like I just don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
Because Kira gets attached to this machine and the door opens and the mirror goes out. So there's this long
it's like a shaft that's floating.
Shaft is perfect.
That has the crystal floating above it.
Yeah, so there's this shaft underneath the crystal. The crystal's like in the center of the castle, and then there's a shaft straight down from the crystal down to where there's exposed lava. And so there's a door that slides open that exposes the shaft, and a mirror comes out that catches beams of light from the crystal and redirects them at whoever's in the machine at their eyes, and this is like the catalyst for making the machine work, and it drains out their vital essence. They become gray, right?
Their eyes physically gray out, and they have no thought. Yeah. They can be commanded and told what to do. That's where all of because they have a bunch of podling slaves.
Yes, and all the podling slaves have just had this procedure done on them.
Yeah.
But they're excited. I mean, the scientist is excited. He's got a Gelfling. He's going to make some real good juice to give the emperor. Yeah. But Agra's in there. She's just, I don't know why she's in there, but she's this huge lady and she's in this tiny cage, hanging.
He was trying to figure out what her juice would be like.
What kind of juice do you
Listen,
make?
I gotta modify my chair to fit you. So and then we're gonna get Agra juice.
Yeah.
So she does call out some encouragement to Kira. Kira is locked in the chair. The machine is active. It's actively draining her, and there is no one to rescue her. And so but there are a lot of caged animals in the room, and she starts calling out, she fights it. She calls out with her animal talk abilities, and everything gets crazy, and the scientist is very flustered, and she gets herself out. And so this is a meaningful moment because Kira self-rescued.
Yeah.
there wasn't a hero that came in, but you know, she was able to save herself, and so really,
Which I find really interesting. I feel like this happens multiple times in this film, a little bit, because like at the same time, Jin, who was buried in rubble, they have a Jin and Kira have a bit of a connection, right?
mm-hmm.
And so they both, even just by knowing the other exists, it sort of like helps motivate them to be stronger than they would be on their own. And so Kira has to save herself, but he has to unbury himself, and he actually ends up in a Gartham den and has to get out of the Gartham den and continue to find a way to infiltrate the castle. So they're both having to be fairly self-sufficient instead of like one person coming in and saving the other or anything like that. But like the idea that I feel like that's the first time Jen also throughout the whole film isn't saved by somebody.
Yeah.
He's like finally doing it himself.
So
it's a real arc for these characters.
Yeah. I really appreciate that these things exist. You know, in a lot of stories that are told, especially like fairy tale type stories, there's a pretty clear distinction. There's the victim, whoever needs to be rescued. There's the hero who does all the rescuing. There's the antagonist who is the evil bad guy.
Yeah.
And that's the stories. Those are the kind of stories that we tend to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And in those stories, the victim never can save themselves. They need the hero, and the hero like doesn't work with people per se, like doesn't work with the victim. They save the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not what life should be like.
Yeah.
Or is, you know, like there's never really a moment where we're exactly a victim, because there's not really a moment where you should be saying like, there's nothing I can do. I'm hopeless. I need to be saved.
Yeah. In like normal everyday situations or like regular life kind of things, not like those extreme, like you've been kidnapped or whatever.
And a hero doesn't really like, nobody really wants a hero, like, because those are the kind of people that when they hear you talk about your problems, they try and fix them for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we don't want that, not really.
Yeah.
And so once again, these are real characters. They're these fantastical creatures, but they're
like what Josh was saying, like he observed real life
mm-hmm.
and put it in there. And what's happens more often in real life is you have to save yourself.
Yeah. I mean, there's support, and we do support each other, but there are moments where you need to save yourself, and you need to believe that you can.
Yeah.
So,
although let me tell you, somebody is real important in this. A fizz gig.
I know. I left him out. I didn't talk about him back when we introduced Kira. Mm-hmm. And then I've been like, when do I talk about Fizzgig? I don't know.
Well, here's your opportunity.
But yeah, okay. So Fizzgig is like essentially Kira's dog. Yeah. Is kind of how I would describe him. He's just
he's like 80% mouth and the rest fur.
Yeah. And now I can't remember, but one of there was, I can't remember if it was Jim that didn't want Fizzgig to exist. I think it was where he was just like, no. And Frank was like, yes. and I think that's how it went down. Because so they weren't the director of the movie. They brought in this guy from the UK. And this was his last film before he retired. But they were like they co-directed the movie like division wise and the story.
They were the driving creative force.
Yeah. And they chose to do it together as co's and not have one of them be a leader. And they talked a little bit about how that created some interesting situations, because if Jim said something to somebody, that he needed to make sure that Frank knew about it, so that Frank wasn't countermanding something or anything like that. But they did have their roles. Like Jim said that he had more of a like a overall vision and like would think about what the picture should look like or what the camera might be or whatever. And Frank was very much more focused on character and like the development or the movement of these creatures and things like that. So they did have their roles, but they both recognized that the situation was pretty unique to have these co-creators, and that probably not just anybody could have done it, but that they like knew each other well enough and were willing to agree and disagree in a productive way that they were able to make it work. So Fizzgig did make it into the movie. And so, yeah, he is also a encouraging force. Yes. Thank you. In the movie, there's times where he's barking to help, like encourage along an action.
Because she has Fizzgig stay with Jen, which like
when
they get separated.
Yeah, when they get separated, she tells Fizzgig
when he goes,
to stay with him.
Gelfling, you die.
And it's Fizzgig's barking or whatever that rouses Jen and gets him going. Yeah. What was I talking about before you said Fizzgig? I don't know. Anyway, Kira's escaped. Jen escaped from the Gartham, and he's made his way to the chamber with the crystal in it.
Yeah, he's like in a
higher position, kind of overlooking
like a balcony.
Yeah,
I think Jin and Kira are both on the higher balcony, but they're on opposite sides.
Opposite sides, yes. Yeah. And the mystics are making their way into the castle. Like they're right there. And the Skeksis have also come into the room, but they were not aware that Jin and Kira were out and free. They were just
they're going to
in.
replenish themselves.
Yeah, they're doing the replenishment. Because it is the time of the Great Conjunction.
Yeah.
That's actually from the video game or the book series. What is that? The Witcher. They call it the conjunction of the spheres.
Okay. It's the same thing, though.
It's just the conjunction in this one, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Great
Conjunction.
Because the Great Conjunction is when all three planets align. Like there's times where maybe two, or I said planets, but suns.
Yeah.
But this is a rare occurrence where all three line up.
Every 1,000 years.
Yep.
That is such a nice round number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why Agra needed her big elaborate
calendar.
thing. Just like 1,000 years. Okay.
Yeah.
It's easy to keep track
Figured
of.
it out. Maybe this is the only one that was 1,000 years.
Maybe other ones are less predictable.
They're like,
All right. So the Great Conjunction is coming, and the Skeksis are celebrating because if the crystal, like they believe that with the crystal not being fixed and the Great Conjunction happening, they're going to live forever.
And they think Kira's dead.
Yeah, because she's off to the
chair.
To the chamber, to the chair.
She's getting juiced.
Yep.
And I don't mean like steroids. I mean like a lemon.
Yeah, the bad guy.
But they are seen. The general calls in the Gartham to attack, and they attack Jin and knock the crystal out of his hands.
Well, I think doesn't he jump?
He jumps onto the crystal.
Oh, and then it
drops
falls out. Yeah,
okay.
He jumps across onto the crystal.
This is really Fizzgig's big moment. Because one of the Skeksis is going to reach and grab it, and Fizzgig goes and bites his hand, and he gets tossed into the shaft.
Yeah,
but he saves the crystal from getting taken by one of the Skeksis.
That's right.
Fizzgig
and then
got the shaft.
He did get the shaft. And then Kira opens her wings and floats down, grabs the crystal, and throws it up to Jen. And in doing so, sacrifices herself because one of the other Skeksis stabs her in the back.
Yeah.
His Skek Stabby was his name.
Yeah. This is one job.
He's always stabbing. You never want to turn your back on Skek Stabby.
So Jin drives home the shard back into the crystal where it goes, and the crystal is now fixed, and the castle starts like falling apart.
Sort of.
So yeah, I mean, like the facade of
The
it is
facade,
like
yeah.
breaking
Yeah.
apart, right? But
To reveal
it's not.
the true castle beneath.
Yeah, well, it's not obvious that that's happening right away. It's like
Because
it does seem like everything's
it's like absolute chaos too,
Yes.
because the mystics are very slowly walking in, and the Skeksis are like running around like insane people. And
Mhm.
then the mystics sort of align themselves, and the Skeksis like accidentally.
So yeah, the mystics have moved in. They finally made it in. The whole place is falling apart. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna keep plodding
know
along
what's
at
up.
the same speed, and then they line up so that they are near the crystal but facing away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Skeksis decide to make a break for it, and they're all running in different directions. And a beam of the Great Conjunction hits the completed whole crystal and sends light that hits the mystics and then out from the mystics to the Skeksis. And it's like a tractor beam that pulls the Skeksis towards the mystic. And the mystic just accepts this, and they become one being. And big reveal, they were two halves of the same whole the whole time.
That
right?
had been separated when they broke the crystal.
Yeah. And what, let's see. So this is the culmination of the film, right? And we get some nice closure. We find out that Fizzgig is okay because Agra is out of her cage in the scientist's little lair area, and sees Fizzgig like biting onto the mirror in the shaft, and so she like saves him, and then Jen is holding Kira, who has died, or she was mortally wounded. I don't know. I assume dead. But these new perfected beings apparently have the ability to heal, and they revive Kira from either death or from
mortal
her wounds.
wounding.
Yeah.
And then they leave. Like they we leave you this world, and off they and they travel like up the beam of the crystal.
I think so.
And that was confusing to me as a child, like why they left. But my understanding is they're not originally from the world.
Yeah, I think that they were not.
Yeah. And there's is there anything else to tie up the ends of this movie?
I think the thing that we didn't explain was that the castle turned from this black to this
to a
beautiful
white.
And it kind of lost all of those sharp, jagged, sort of rougher look to it, to be this more like clean, pristine thing. It almost
Gartham also fell apart.
Yes, they
the
did.
Creation of the Skeksis,
and the potato people all got their groove back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got back their juices somehow.
Yeah. And for me, the castle always felt like, when you have a pot or a pan that's really crusted over from if you've cooked or burned something in it, and it
I've never burned anything, so I don't know.
That's true. You're
what that's like.
Michelin star chef. But when you have those crusties that kind of get they're kind of bubbly and black, and it's over stuff, and then if you can scrape it off and clean it off, it reveals the clean surface
Pristine.
Underneath. And so I kind of always felt like it was this grime that had maybe built up over the castle. In my mind, it had been years and years, and then the purifying of the crystal and the reculmination of the creatures brought about the cleansing of the castle.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so that's the Dark Crystal for you. A few maybe tidbits that we didn't really get into. So something that was unique to this movie is the way that everything got developed. Because a lot of times someone starts out with a story. They have a story in mind that they want to tell. And then that story kind of develops what kind of characters they need to tell the story. And then they think about who they want to cast to play these parts and to tell this story. This worked in reverse, that they had this idea of this world and the characters that might live in it, and they developed that with this very loose story and let the characters flesh out the story. The story was fleshed out as they started building these different characters, and what would this how does this like move, like what kind of story does this form?
Interesting.
I think that maybe is part of why we get such really fleshed out characters, and Kira is such a strong lead and Jen has so many facets to him, is that we weren't like giving them characteristics so that they could move the story along, but they were a whole person, and then the story was made.
Yeah, interesting.
Let's see. So they did, one of the reasons why the Gelflings look like they do is to try and help us connect with them. Yeah. So they wanted the world to be really fantastical and really different, and for these things to seem fantastic, but they wanted some way for the audience to connect and want to come along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of why they made the Gelflings closer to human than anything else in the movie.
Makes sense.
And that closeness to humans is something that made it really challenging. So Jim was the puppeteer for Jen.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that Jen is probably the hardest puppet he's ever performed, because the fact that they were trying to mirror humanity, and if anything like looked puppety,
we would know.
It had to be thrown out and redone. And like one of the big challenges he said was walking, like making the character walk, because when it's like Kermit or something like that, they just sort of walk across the stage or whatever. But he found that the only way that he could get a walk that he was okay with on film was to have Jen directly above him, and he would take small steps, and his steps transferred to the puppet, and that looked the best that he could. And even if he was slouching, he couldn't get a good walk. So like there was a lot of effort made in making Jen walk in a way that he was okay
believable
with.
Yeah, which makes sense, because anytime you're doing art and you're like you're trying to do a portrait or hands or eyes or anything like that, like you can do these other artworks and have them look amazing, like, oh, you're the best at drawing dragons and whatever else, but if you're anything that's human is even slightly off, even the untrained eye is like keys in on that really quick, right? Because we see him all the time.
Uncanny Valley, right? As things have gotten more photorealistic and towards humanity, we just can see that it's not right. Yeah. Do you have a thought?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Another thing that was maybe unique to this movie is the storyboards. And not that storyboards aren't used, but that these storyboards were extensive and extremely elaborate. And the need for that is that when you have human actors, you can kind of set the scene and you can tell them what you want, and then they can go through it. And, it's natural for them to walk this way, look over there, and interact with each other. But they had to really plan everything out. And so they would make these elaborate storyboards that showed a lot of these different movements, and then they would throw them away because they realized these are impossible movements for us to do with these puppets.
Because they have four people puppeting one guy.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
So they did a lot of work beforehand before they even started filming, and they spent years creating the scenes and the puppets and the storyboards and all of this stuff before they even started filming. I think they spent a couple years filming and like 3 years prepping to film. So it was somewhere over 5 years to produce this movie.
It's pretty dang good, honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
considering the feat that it is. Also, I feel like, truthfully, this movie stands the test of time really, really well. Like, there's older films I think don't age well.
Mhm.
But I think this one ages well in lots of ways.
In lots of ways, it really does. The whole reason that I'm doing this podcast is because I watched this with my daughter, months ago. And I was nervous because I hadn't seen it in forever. And I was showing this movie from 1981 or 82 to my daughter. And I really hoped like that it stood up to the test of time, because I had shared The Fifth Element with my son, and it did not.
He is just wrong.
Yeah, that one stands up.
That one stands.
He was not impressed. But this is really great. There are a few effects that you can see, like the old-timey stuff, like the light beams from the crystal always look a little bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
everything else
it's all live action, like shot
real
with a
life
camera.
effects,
yeah. And they put a ton of work into the landscape, and one of the ways that they put all of this work into is that they made a history for the planet and for the people. And so they have extensive maps that they've drawn. They talked about how there's a mountain that Jen is crossing, and the producers and everyone, they've already talked about what's on the other side of the mountain and the history that's there. And there's all these things that never make it into the film. They don't talk about what's on the other side of the mountain or really dive terribly into the history of these things. But because they know it while they're making the movie feels like lived in, and that the characters are real. And their goal, one of the goals that they wanted, was that when the movie was over and you went home, you felt like those characters would continue to live.
Yeah.
In some ways, that reminds me of like Elden Ring or the Dark Souls games, where there is so much lore that is never explained to you like directly, but that if you want to, you could go like read the descriptions on these different things you find, or like look at the architecture or whatever. And there is a story there that I often, when I was playing these games, I wouldn't understand why they put so much effort in to this thing that people wouldn't really necessarily know. And with Elden Ring, they brought in that, R.R. Martin? Is that right?
Martin.
Yeah.
They brought him in, and he wrote an extensive lore of the history of Elden Ring's land. And they really only use it to set a stage. It had nothing to do with the story that the game plays.
Yeah.
It's just to create this world.
Which I think is super cool.
Well, I feel like, so there's a comparison. One of the reasons that this type of thing works is because it allows you to see beyond the edges of the frame, kind of, right? Where things exist for a certain reason, and like our own world, we've talked before. Oh no, that part got cut. About how like the reason things are the way they are has a specific meaning and a history, right? And so, and we know that like a piece of pottery or furniture or whatever, there's a reason it was designed the way it was, even if we don't know what it is. So we have this kind of fundamental understanding of that everything kind of extends past what we can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to the effort, like another great example is Dune, where you build this whole universe that exists well beyond the confines of the story you're telling, then you can include these little details like are in the real world about things that are that way because of the story, but you don't know the backstory behind them. But your brain, I think, catches a little bit, right?
Yeah. It's like subconsciously.
Yeah. So having unanswered questions really helps a story feel true, because real life has unanswered questions. And a comparison, I think, that kind of when this can go off the rails is Dragon Age. Did you ever play those games?
Very small amounts.
So like they're RPGs. They have just the best lore. They're so well done, and it's just so much lore was created, and they made 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
The most recent one is the 4th one.
Yeah.
And in the 4th one, they wanted to pay everything off. And they're like, oh yeah, you wanted to know about this answer? Here's the answer. It's this. And they just start, and like through the whole game, everything that's been paying off for all of these previous games, like all these little hints that were dropped 15 years ago in the first game, they just like will have a wall of text that's like, and this means this, and this means this, and this means, and it's like they're paying out. Like they had all this stuff in reserve, but it's not super pleasing. Like it's not, it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel really good to be like, it's cool when you read it and you go, oh, that's what that means. And then it kind of takes away the mystery, right? So you get all this like, and this is what everything is in Dragon Age, the most recent one. And it kind of takes away the magic of the world a little bit.
I was going to say, for me, it kind of was like a little disappointing because for sure I was like, oh, there's no more questions for me. Now I have no reason to continue here.
Yeah.
So like, obviously it was their last one, or like if they made another one, I don't even know what they would do with it. This most recent one wasn't as well received.
Yeah,
I think,
as other ones.
Other ones. But it was a little bit disappointing to have everything answered for me because there was something about like those questions existing that made it feel more engaging.
Yeah.
So the effort to make the world pays off. But when you try and mind that, like going back to Dune, how Brian Herbert wrote jillions of books that answer questions, it's not as rewarding, right? Or the Lord of the Rings show series on Amazon, right? Again, it's not as rewarding because you're kind of squeezing the last of the juice out of that idea, and you got to leave something in there. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I think if you squeeze everything out of it and you close up every loose end, then you're not doing what the exact goal, like their goal was not to tie all the loose ends up.
Yeah.
It was for you to believe that the story continued, that there was more, that they were still living.
Yeah. And I think that gives more opportunity as the viewer, the person that's receiving this story, to like have more questions and have more things that you get to think about and wonder about, which allows you to think about the story itself and the lessons itself and get more lessons and more stuff from the story because those questions exist for you.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Skeksis and the Mystics and their connection. I don't know. I guess you only recently finished the movie, Josh. And you've watched it probably, Kelly, you've watched it more times than I have, I think.
I've definitely watched it a lot.
Yeah. So I remember watching it when I was young and really having a fondness for it. But that I went a long, long period of time without watching it. And like, I don't know, I would say it's easily been 25, 30 years, since I watched it. And then I had this watching with my daughter. And this was an example of where in my life I've experienced something young and then I experience it again older, and the experience is a little bit different. So when I was younger, I definitely had a more fairy tale way of looking at stories. So the Skeksis were obviously evil. The Mystics were good. And that was what my brain could wrap itself around, this idea. There's the division. The Mystics are good. The Skeksis are bad. And what I couldn't understand is at the end, why did they combine into one being? And that being could at all be better than what the Mystics were on their own. Did you guys ever have any thoughts like that when you were thinking about this?
I think it's hard. Like, maybe it's harder for me to say like a distinct line because I watched it a lot as a kid and then watched it a lot as an adult later. But for me, I feel like I remember always liking that they came together because I felt like maybe the two sides were too too strongly what they were, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I can follow what you're saying, but as a young person, I wouldn't have, or I didn't. For me, it was really easy for me to draw these lines and like, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, and the good guys shouldn't want the bad guys to be a part of them. Now I'm older, and I'm trying to like learn about myself and change things about myself that I want to improve on. And I look at, and then I watched this movie, and I watched the Skeksis and the Mystics join together to become this whole being. And I realized that I was working on doing
That.
to myself what this movie was doing to these two creatures, because I have always looked at creatures like the Mystics as the ones to emulate, and how to kind of form myself, that being selfless and passive and just like all these definitions of what I understood good to be. And it's only recently that I've really understood that I need some selfishness. I need some drive, that like these things that the Skeksis have in abundance.
Yeah.
Like, it's too much. It's created what they are, which is evil. But the Mystics aren't good. They're useless. For 1,000 years, they could not solve this problem. They needed Jen, who is a very flawed creature, but a whole flawed creature, to do what they couldn't. And they passively showed up and they reaped the rewards of it. And I'm not trying to be really down on them, but they aren't whole.
Yeah.
I have a counterpoint to that.
Do it.
Which is not necessarily that they couldn't be bothered to solve the problem. They just knew the problem would be solved.
I mean, I can't get behind that attitude, though. Like, if I know I could do something about something, but if I don't, the problem will get solved, I don't feel good about not being involved.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe one of the big things with that is that the Mystics don't have the like same ambition and drive that the Skeksis did.
Absolutely, they don't.
And so it might be that they knew that the problem would be solved, and so why would they waste time? And like, they did what they needed to do to make sure that Jen was ready and that they were ready and that Jen was kept safe and all that kind of stuff. So the priorities and feelings were really different, I think. And just on like a personal thought, I also really like the idea that, you know, the two sides are what is involved in a complete person, instead of like either you're good or you're bad, and like these attributes that are seen as good or seen as bad make you those things. So I remember when I went through a divorce, and I was really angry a lot for a long time afterwards for various things. And then I like felt really guilty for being really angry, because I see that as, or I grew up like learning, especially as a woman, like if you are angry and you are like feeling those emotions, you're not a good person at all, you know? And I like felt a lot of guilt about being angry, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I remember that I made some like pottery and like just poured all of my anger into it. I just was like so angry, and that's all I could think of, and that's what I did. And so I did art, and then I stepped back and I was like, this is really beautiful. Like, this art is really beautiful. And I realized that these things, like this emotion of like anger that I was feeling guilty about, was actually a really good thing. And so I realized that the anger that I felt wasn't this like ugly, evil thing, but it was the part of me that like loved me, you know, that like wasn't okay with me being treated the way I was being treated, and wasn't okay with me like, you know, having the things that were happening in my life previously continue. And so the best way that like I could tell myself was to be angry about it, you know? And then when I realized that, I started realizing like where that anger came from and how it helped me and how I became this more complete, more beautiful person. And I was able to do really beautiful things with it. And so allowing myself to not feel guilty or like shame for feeling that, but like appreciating that and incorporating it more, so like feeling more complete, was so healthy for me and made me so much more and so much better and feel so much more joy, right? So it was a moment where, you know, it was a combination of the mystics and the Skeksis in my own personal life, where I was like, oh, these things aren't bad. I just wasn't understanding what it could be used for.
Right.
And so we need both of those halves.
Yeah. I think that anger and selfishness and some of these things are easy for us to label as negatives because they run away so easily, and they can become more than is good.
Yeah.
Quite easily. But I am starting to believe that there's a certain amount that is necessary for us.
Yeah.
That some of the great things that people have done is because they have ambition. And ambition comes from pride and selfishness a little bit. Like those are components.
Yeah, like they have these negative connotations to them, but truthfully they're very positive. It's what you do with them.
Yeah. Right. So the Skeksis and the mystics are personifications of
the extremes.
An extreme of these different things.
Yeah.
And neither of them should exist on their own.
Yeah. Which I love. I just really just love this film. I think it's so great. I'm glad that this has become a very like, I feel like we've hit some really existential things, but I think that's what this film has. It has these like lighthearted, really funny things where you're like the potato people and whatever, but like it also has these really beautiful, deep themes that can reach us both as kids and as adults.
Yeah. Any final thoughts for you, Josh?
I have a few final thoughts.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to talk about the splitting of the sexies and the
Sexies? I like it.
This is a different, you watched the wrong version.
The wrong version. Yeah. Why are they taking that one's clothes off? No, the Skeksis. Sorry. And the nuns or whatever. Okay, here's my thought. I was thinking about this. Did you ever watch that episode of Rick and Morty where they split into the toxic and non-toxic?
Mm-mm.
I don't think I saw that.
So there's an episode of Rick and Morty where they go to a spa and the spa draws out your toxins and it draws out your like toxic personality. And then it entraps it. And so the toxic version of Rick obviously escapes and then is going to turn the whole world toxic. And does for a minute, and then eventually they have to recombine and, you know, blah, 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 right? And the thing that's funny to me is that Rick and Morty especially feels like a way to excuse poor behavior for the writers a lot of time. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, you know, we're better with our toxic traits. That's what makes us who we really are, right? We need everything. Which is a little... deceptive, in my opinion. Not to say that we don't need our toxic trait, but I think that framing of it isn't helpful. It's not that it's good to be selfish or it's good to be mean or gluttonous or whatever, right? Like that to be complete, we need to be all those things. In my thinking, the message is more that the main guy, what are they called when they're together?
So it's your Kex?
Your Skeks?
Something like that, yeah.
The your Skeks, right? The problem wasn't that they had bad impulses, and the problem is that they tried to artificially change who they were and split up and say like, well, this is the good part of myself and this is the side that I want. So I'm going to have the good part and the other stuff can just go screw off, right? Like I don't care about it. And so it's not saying that like you must have that to be complete. It's saying it's better to just kind of be who you are, regardless of whether you wish you were somebody else. It's better to admit that you are who you are. And like you can work to change yourself. And I think if somebody through the process of growth became very similar to the mystics, that would be a good person, right? Even if they're not perfect, even if they have flaws and they don't teach their kids how to do karate or whatever, right? Like if someone naturally became like a mystic, that we would consider that a very good person. We would say this is a very kind, generous person, and we would be okay with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that we could artificially slice off part of ourselves, that idea is what's toxic, not the toxic stuff itself, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like
I'm splitting hairs, I think, a little bit.
No,
yes and no. I do want to respond to that. Because so, I mean, I think what you're saying is interesting, and I think that part of it, like we're using words like toxic to describe these things. The toxic part of you is the selfish part of you, and I think that's unfair to the concept of selfishness, because like I said, ambition is kind of part pride, and selfishness is mixed in there to create ambition. Like what forms ambition in someone, right? Too much ambition is a bad thing, but some is required for you to like move forward in your life and want progress and stuff in yourself. I am personally invested in this discussion because of how I like have been viewing myself recently. So I don't want to get like, I don't want to fight about this. But you talked about,
We can fight about it.
okay.
No holds barred.
It's going down.
We can edit whatever we want out.
So you said that someone can work towards becoming mystic-like, and that we would view them as a good person. And I don't want to be taken as if I think that I'm perfect or whatever, but I did that. I grew up seeing the mystics as the, like, not the mystics, but mystic-like things, right? Religiously, I was taught, and seeing films like The Dark Crystal and not understanding, and just my view of what was good and what was right was based on these like perfectly passive and gentle and selfless things that I was being shown. And I tried very hard to pattern myself after it. And I'm the kind of person that if I try very hard, I typically do it. And it's created a lot of problems for me. And I think that a lot of people would look at who I was 5 years ago, or who I was 2 years ago, or whatever, like this person that was trying to so hard to be like the mystics. And like you said, Josh, they would say he's a good person. I think that for the world, I was a good person, and that's what I was trying to be. But there are parts that were miserable because of what it takes to be that person. And I am learning and accepting that I need a certain amount of self-preservation in my personality as well. And that exists by being a little bit selfish. And so I don't think that selfishness or anger or even greed maybe is toxic per se. It's when they are to excess that they're a problem. And we use some of these words that are ugly, like greed, but there's other ways to describe it that are maybe a little bit more positive when they're not taken to excess. And I think that taking some of the features of the mystics to excess creates a person that the world views as excellent and very good, but they themselves are not whole, and their existence is kind of sad. And I'm not trying to argue. That's how I feel, but it doesn't mean that it's right or that I've nailed it down. But that's what I've gone through recently.
No, and I don't think that you're wrong, but I think that there is a difference. And what I'm trying to say is that when you several years ago were trying to be like a mystic, there were these other parts of you that you were not engaging with, you were tamping down or suppressing, right? And that's the part that's not good, is not engaging with your whole self and not admitting like, oh, I hate this. Like, because basically when you're behaving in a way that like you're living for other people and allowing them to take and take and take from you, right? You surely didn't feel, oh, this is great. I like things this way, right?
Yeah.
It probably frustrated you. And when you listen to that frustration, that's okay. That's engaging with yourself, right? But when you say, no, I'm not a frustrated person, I'm not a selfish person, and you try and deny it and tamp it down and kind of push it aside, that's more tantamount to slicing it off and making a skeksis out of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that you cannot excise it like a tumor.
Yeah.
It's a part of you, and you have to grow to encapsulate all of it.
Yeah.
For some people, maybe that does mean they, in the end, have more of a quote unquote mystic like Gandhi. Kind of, he was very passive. He wasn't, like, that was who he became, and that's who he was, and that's what he accepted, right? But that doesn't mean that a complete person is always going to be a mystic, is what I kind of took it, is what you were saying.
A complete person should be happy with themselves, right?
Yeah. And
as the world goes on around them and people interact with them, it shouldn't be unbalancing them and making them feel like, oh, I hate this and I don't like it, right? They should be able to just carry on through the world, happy with what they're doing and controlling what they can control and going on their way, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think, like, as I have grown and I have been able to, like, speak to all the parts of me and accept them more as I've grown, I've grown to have, like, better, healthier boundaries. And for me, that means I say no more instead of being willing to do what everybody says, because I don't have the bandwidth for that. And so I'm miserable if I do that. But if I have healthy boundaries and I say no to people, which maybe seems confrontational sometimes or contrary to what they want, but it does create opportunity for me to be better when I do engage. And so I accept that about myself. I know that I can't make everybody happy and I can't do everything. And I have to acknowledge that for me to feel safe and happy and healthy, I have to be able to do these other things too. And so I'll probably won't ever like become mystic like, because I don't think that's who I am. But I do think that I can become a more complete version of me by acknowledging all the different parts and recognizing what can be positive from them for me.
Okay. So yeah, I think that those are all good thoughts. And I think I understand a little bit better, Josh, where you're going with that. I think when I hear that, when I heard you say that the mystics, like someone who is able to become more mystic-like would be a good person, that kind of triggered me a little bit, that like, I don't want that to be the definition that the world continues to perpetuate. I want things to be better for my kids than they were for me. And so I don't want to perpetuate like an unreasonable standard.
Yeah, I get that. So there's Carl Rogers, right? Who's did Rogerian human-centered therapy. Anyway, his whole point is that you need to be who you are. That's like the whole philosophy in a nutshell, right? And when I think of our children, this is a little, maybe we'll want to remove this part, I don't know. But like, there's a section where somebody asked him if he has any regrets. And Carl Rogers, it was like a letter or something, I don't remember what. And so he said he really has one regret, which is that he used to mentor people a lot, and he would look at somebody and he would see all the potential in them and who they could be, right? And so he would push them in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I wish I had just let them be who they were. And he compares it to a sunrise. And he's like, you can look at a sunrise and appreciate it because you know you have no control over it. So you don't look at a sunrise and go, oh, I wish I had a little more blue or a little more yellow or whatever, right?
Mhm.
You're not like critiquing a sunrise. You just sit back and go, gosh, that's a beautiful sunrise, because you know, no matter what you do, you can't change what the sunrise looks like, right? And he's like, I wish I'd approached people more like that, where instead of looking at them and seeing everything I want to make different, I just appreciated them for who they were, right? For the people that they are. And like with my kids, that's always my goal, is like, it's my job to make sure they're ready for society and stuff, right? But in my interactions with them, I try as much as possible to just appreciate them for who they are, like I would appreciate a sunset, right? And that's kind of what I meant, is you can turn that on yourself as well and appreciate who you are and not see every little tiny deficit, and instead just be like, yep, sometimes I am frustrating to deal with. Sometimes I interrupt people when they're talking. I can be kind of a douchebag sometimes, but that's okay. Like, and not excusing it and saying, I'm not going to worry about trying to do better and be less of a douchebag and interrupt Brandon less, but just saying like, yeah, that's just who I am and I'll try better next time. But like, I'm okay with who I am. I appreciate myself, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I hope that Kelly can find a way to keep that in, honestly, because it is a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a smart guy.
Appreciating something because
Without
you have
trying
no
to change
control over it, and then applying that towards other things in life. Like, that's a beautiful thought.
Yeah.
I really think that this movie has a lot to offer an audience that wants to enjoy and dig into it, right? If you want a Lord of the Rings type story that just is an adventure, then
And
watch
a lot less hours.
watch the movie and enjoy it. But that there's also like Jim Henson and all of the literally hundreds of people that went into making this movie. Like, they poured their heart and soul into it. And there's a lot more depth than there is in your regular action, adventure.
Yeah. It's so beautifully stunning. It's so stunningly beautiful, and also something that can be existential. Like, it hits a lot of layers. Like, it's something that's beautiful to watch. It's a good story that's entertaining, but there's a lot to like take from it personally. So I just think it's such a well done film.
It really is. Years later, in an interview, Jim Henson said this was the project he was most proud of. So, anyway.
What were you going to say?
So I have my final thoughts.
Final.
Are we finishing up?
Yeah, we're finished.
Wrapping up.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Here's my final thought. Just that I didn't love the movie.
Is this revenge for The Godfather?
No, it's not. No, here's
Mafia
the thing.
Daddy.
Okay, that was more of a joke. I liked it. I do think like the story itself, I'm like, it's pretty tropey, right? It's pretty standard fare. But like, while I was watching, what really came to me, what you were just talking about, is that like, it's very seldom you see people just doing what they absolutely love, like seeing somebody else play, right? Like engaging their full creativity in something. That's rarer than we think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what stuck out to me while watching the movie, is like, there's a scene where there's like these little like colorful sea anemone things, right? That go blah, 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 or whatever and move away. When they're in the swamp, right? And I was like, somebody spent weeks making this puppet for a 30-second shot.
Yeah.
Right? Like the amount of care, and the only way that amount of care could go into something like this is if the people loved what they were doing. Right? Because you couldn't pay someone to care about it and to put that kind of attention.
You're right. The world is the star of this movie.
Yeah.
By far. And maybe that's, you said the story is kind of tropey and really nothing extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes sense. Maybe that's why most movies don't start with the characters and let the story develop later, because then the story isn't terribly interesting or novel. So not everybody could do this, or else all of our movies would be boring. But there's definitely something there.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
I love it. Viewers, our little podlings. I hope you guys go watch it too if you haven't watched it. And if you have watched it before, maybe do a little rewatch. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
watch it with your kids. Let them get scared. Make Jim Henson proud.
I did finish with the kids. Like they watched the last 40 minutes of it and they were way into it. It was pretty funny.
It's awesome.
Except for when Fizzgig showed up and they go, that guy's got 3 rows of teeth.
So I think that probably there's not going to be a danger of me leading another podcast because we are at the 3-hour mark.
Oh, this is going to take so long for me to edit.
Kelly has to edit this.
Dang it.
So I doubt she's going to want another Brandon podcast of 3 hours to edit. So you guys are off.
What if she splits this into 2 pods?
I could. It depends.
I don't know.
Part 1, part 2. We'll see how much I end up keeping.
It kind of all just got a mix, amalgamation of stuff. You're gonna work your magic, and I'm very interested to see what comes out of this.
Me too.
Okay.
Me 3.
Well, it's time to sign off. Do you want to?
Yeah. Thanks for coming, our little podlings, and go do some art. Don't do any crime. Bye.
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 Our little podlings.
I'm still recording. I'm gonna put that in.
All right, bring us in, Josh.
Hello, my podlings.
They don't know about it yet.
Yeah, you can't use
They don't know about podlings
They don't know
yet?
about podlings yet.
Dang it.
We haven't gotten that far.
All right. I failed immediately. Brandon, you're in charge.